Now, you probably think that this video's title and thumbnail is clickbait. I would like to say that it is not. I finally got around to watching my Oxford year because from the trailer, I already knew that I was not going to be a fan. But I wanted to give it a chance regardless rather than dismissing it out of hand. And whilst I am happy that I did end up watching it and having my initial thoughts about the film confirmed, it still left me with a bitter taste in my mouth because of how this film so clearly romanticizes death and grief without being honest about the toll it places. And I personally found it very egregious and very dangerous. And I'd like to talk about that. Now, before I dive fully into the crux of the video, a not so quick synopsis of the film. My Oxford year follows Ana de la Vega, played by Sophia Carson, a student from the US who travels to the University of Oxford to study Victorian poetry for her Masters of Art degree, and so will only be in Oxford for a year. This is important to note. Anyway, Anna, who already has a job lined up as a future analyst at Goldman Sachs, equally important to remember, has decided to follow a dream she's had since she was 10 years old and read Philip Pullman's Is Dark Material series. Her parents are proud of her, talking about her achievements and the heights she will reach the minute she's back with an Oxford education in hand and sets off for Oxford for a brilliant year. Except on her first day, not only is she rebuffed by her neighbor who compliments her face but hates her shoes, but she's also splashed by a speeding vintage Jaguar just before she steps into a store to buy her very first British fish and chips. Whilst placing her order, Jamie, played by Corey Melchrist of Queen Charlotte fame, yes people, George is in this film. Does he finally get a happy ending, a chance to live to old age with the woman he loves in this film? Anyway, Jamie comes in with Cecilia, and whilst he's immediately flirty with Anna, who responds in kind, things take a nosedive upon learning that he's hiding from a woman he had previously dated. And Cecilia confirms that he's a serial dater. Anna looks out the window and notices that the Jaguar outside is the very same one that splashed dirty water on her. She is pissed, rats out Jamie to the ex is hiding from, and stalks away, clearly hoping that she never runs into him again. A wish, unfortunately, is not fulfilled as the next morning she learns that the professor she had been hoping to learn from had been moved to a position with more authority and instead got one of her PhD students to teach her class in her stead. Enter Jamie with a cake. No, seriously. Enter Jamie with a cake as a way to introduce his class to the beauty of poetry that to him basically boils down to the fact that we should all eat cake whenever we get the chance to, as life is too short. And you know what? That's a philosophy I can definitely get behind. It is overused though, but I can get behind it. Anyway, he and Anna are still at loggerheads, and this spills over to the analysis of poetry, with Anna being the stereotypical representation of the insufferable reader that just has me wanting to scream because, girl, we get it. You like poetry. There's no need to drop it in every damn sentence, is there? Anyway, the two have a bit of back and forth. Jamie tries to help Anna get to a point where she's more honest with her interpretation of the poem she's reading, rather than merely ascribing what she hopes they mean in a bid to psychoanalyze his own personhood as a whore. This creates a bonding moment that Cecilia notices, and the next night when Cecilia runs into Anna with her neighbor who she's now friends with named Charlie and their mutual friend and classmate Maggie, Cecilia pulls Anna and introduces her to other men in the club in a not so subtle way to get her to stay away from Jamie. Except this plan backfires when one of the men is an absolute dick to Anna, who storms off and is chased after by Jamie, who tries to correct Anna's first pub experience by taking her to a much quieter and decent pub where he sings karaoke, specifically Coldplay Yellow, after which they have some kebabs, and before they part, Anna tries kissing Jamie, who pulls back and dissuades her that it is a bad idea. Now, This is the part of the film where I cheer, thinking for some reason that the film will show the rest of the romance as merely being a long overdrawn masturbation sequence by a dreaming Anna where she doesn't actually start a sexual relationship with her professor, but alas, it is all wishful thinking. Anyway, Anna's upset that Jamie rebuffed her, and at the Halloween party where only she and Charlie show up in costume, shout out to Charlie's nod to Anthony Bridgerton with his outfit. I love. Anyway, at the party, Anna proceeds to do the thing where she dances with an oblivious Ridley, a fellow student and rower, all for the sake of getting Jamie jealous. She eventually leaves the party with Ridley but parts ways with him when Ridley is disdainful of her and Jamie's kebab place that she had taken him to get a bite to eat. The next day, Jamie takes her to the library within Oxford Library, showing her a first edition that she does. The only thing I personally found relatable with her in this entire film, she smelled the old book. And I was like, you know what, girl? Yes, I would have done the same. I fuck with that. Old book smells get to me too. Anyway, that is enough to earn Anna's forgiveness, and she and Jamie make up, complete with them having sex in Jamie's car, which, girl, I know it's a Jaguar, but still, girl. Well, the two of them agree to keep things fun and casual between them, and even though Cecilia tries to warn Anna off, she pays her no mind, and the months fly past with her and Jamie having sex and going on dates and behaving very inappropriately in classrooms and spaces where her fellow students are in or could walk into at any goddamn time. And things all come to a head on the day when Jamie finally invites Anna over to his place for the first time. Remember, all this while they've been having sex at her place or in his car. Anyway, whilst at his house, Jamie reveals to Anna that he and his father don't talk anymore ever since his brother Eddie, who used to be the glue that held them all together, died. The two of them have sex, and the next morning, Jamie visibly shrinks away from Anna, sending her off and avoiding her afterwards by claiming that he's working on his thesis and has to spend all the time in the library. Except at the Oxford versus Cambridge boat race, which is a big deal even till date, Anna runs into the librarian, who lets it slip that Jamie hasn't been to the library in weeks. When she learns that Cecilia has also been very busy in the past week, she immediately concludes that they're having an affair and rushes over to Jamie's apartment to confront him. And sure enough, when she gets there, Cecilia is in Jamie's house, coming out of Jamie's bedroom. Anna immediately barges into Jamie's bedroom, only to see him hooked up to medical equipment, looking quite frail as he receives treatment. Jamie is furious and screams at Anna to get out. Shortly afterwards, he comes to see her and tells her the entire truth. His brother Eddie died from a very aggressive form of cancer, one that it turned out to be genetic, as he too has that very same particular cancer, but the treatment she walked in on was the very last one he was going to take, as he had made up his mind that he wasn't going to spend the rest of his short time alive being prodded and poked in hospitals. And that is why he and his father are at an outs, as his father wants him to keep fighting, and Jamie is just simply tired and wants to live the rest of the life he has on his own terms as he awaits death. Also, Cecilia was Eddie's girlfriend who stayed with him through it all to the very end. Jamie therefore wants to push Anna away, as he believes her staying with him would be wasting her time on him. He doesn't want what happened to Cecilia and what she went through with Eddie to be Anna's experience with him. But Anna reminds him of the words they had shared in their first class, that just because something is fleeting doesn't mean it's not meaningful, and she doesn't want him to go through what he's going through alone. Jamie agrees and kisses her as they reconciled. With the knowledge that the time he has with her really is limited, he finally caves and gets Anna an invitation to Oxford's 750th anniversary, and they show up together as one another's date, where Anna is introduced to his parents and gets to witness firsthand the friction between Jamie and his father. His father finds a way to meet Anna separately and tries talking to her to convince Jamie to keep fighting and consider using a new experimental drug. Anna tries bringing it up with Jamie, but he shuts her down immediately, When they get back home from the ball, however, a weak Jamie collapses and is sent to the hospital. Whilst wandering the halls, Anna chances on Jamie's father, who is upset and grieving, alone, outside and away from the rest of his family. Anna's birthday rapidly approaches, and for part of her birthday present, Jamie allows her to drive his Jaguar as they head to his parents' house, where Jamie is also arranged for their friends to show up to surprise Anna for a surprise birthday party. Anna uses the timed moment to present Jamie's father with a chance to mend his relationship with his son by presenting to him a model car that she gives him so that they can build it together the way they used to, i.e. Jamie, Eddie and their father when Jamie and Eddie were way younger. It works, and Anna also learns from Jamie that Eddie died in their home. Now, after the birthday celebrations, Anna's parents call her to wish her a happy birthday, and after her mother notices that something seems to be wrong, she questions Anna, who admits that she will be staying in England instead of returning to New York to take Goldman Sachs on the offer. Her mother tries to convince her otherwise, but when she sees how devastated Anna looks, admits that Anna would only know if truly she's making a mistake after she's made it, and gives her her blessing. Jamie, meanwhile, is furious at Anna's decision to basically go through the same thing Cecilia went through and smashes the model car he and his father had just finished building together. He and Anna spend the night in separate rooms, and there's a distance between them even as they return back to school. Anna decides that since Jamie doesn't want her to stay, there's no need for her to stay, and chooses to go back to the US. I know these two. At graduation, her friends urge her to speak with Jamie again, and she eventually runs into him at their spot in the library, where she once again tells him that she wants to stay with him. And when Jamie finally admits to his fears that he worries that she would regret the choice, she responds that she's of the opinion that we shouldn't regret the things we do, but instead should only regret the things we don't do. They reconcile again. Yes, people. They keep taking a break and reconciling like it's a fucking sport event. But anyway, this is the last time, as after they reconcile and have sex, the very next morning, Anna wakes up to find Jamie unresponsive. It is once again a rush to take him to the hospital, where they are informed that Jamie has developed an acute case of pneumonia as a result of the cancer having weakened his immune system, and he requires treatment. But Jamie's father finally accepts what Jamie's always wanted and tells the doctor that they would follow Jamie's wish of not spending his last days in the hospital. He's taken back home, where we see visions of him and Anna getting to go on the grand tour of Europe like he's always urged her to take. Only for us to realize that it was all in her imagination as Jamie passes away in Anna's arms. Later on, Anna does indeed go to all of these places. She simply does it all alone. And the film ends with her showing up to the exact same Victorian poetry class in Oxford, teaching the class as a PhD student like Jamie had, complete with the baked cake like he did at his first class, and then the credits roll. Now, here's the thing. I'm not about to belabor the point about the inappropriateness of the way this film glorifies the relationship between Anna and Jamie, because I am fairly sure that a lot of those of you watching and or listening to me right now are very aware of how dangerous media that glorifies student-teacher relationships are. And I know my Oxford year tries to hide the power imbalance and does everything it can to reduce the ick factor by having it be between an MA student and a PhD TA who is only teaching the class because the actual professor is trying to shirk responsibility, as they are wont to do. And whilst he gets to teach the class, at least the professor is the one grading the students, so it should be okay. I can just imagine that is a thought process of the writers of this story, and I'm fairly certain that there would have already been several think pieces and videos that talk about how this is all a slippery slope, and that there are way too many instances of educators taking advantage of their students and initiating sexual relationships with their students when there is a clear power imbalance in their relationship, for us to keep trying to make this okay. But I'm not going to get into that. What I instead want to focus on, and the reason for this video, is the danger inherent in how this film seeks to romanticize death and grief, especially as it pertains to loved ones who are suffering from a protracted illness. Because here is the thing. I watched Mandy Moore's A Walk to Remember as a teenager. And I loved it back then, even as it broke me in so many ways. But the thing about that film and a film like My Oxford Year is the fact that neither of them gave an honest representation of what life is like for those who are caring for their loved ones as they battle an illness that takes from them, killing them slowly over time. They do not address the toll it does place on those of us who are left behind dealing with that. There's never any practicality with regards how to cope and what happens afterward, and how you in turn need therapy and aid and support because of how the experience has utterly destroyed you. My dad died 6 months before my 23rd birthday. My mom called to break the news a couple of minutes before 9 a.m. Just as I was about to step through the doors at work, I turned back around and I went home. To my colleagues and some acquaintances, his passing seemed sudden. To my mom and I, though, we were merely counting down the days. It was a little over a year waiting for that final moment. Before he had spent all his time in the hospital, he was at home. He couldn't bathe himself, couldn't go to the toilet on his own, couldn't do the little things he had taken for granted. My 6'5" father was the frailest I've ever seen him. And the thing about films like this that just romanticize the grief, the preparation for death, and why I consider them personally dangerous is because there's never really any truth with how the characters prepare, how they deal with it. Death is messy. Death after a protracted illness takes its toll. It's not the glorified peace and serenity and beauty that is Jamie's last moments before he becomes unresponsive the next morning that was Anna's experience in this film. Movies like this set very unrealistic expectations for that, and I personally find them very dangerous in that regard, because also they do not tackle the guilt, the relief you feel when they finally pass on, and the guilt you feel that you're feeling relieved that they are gone. Because when you start by saying, I'm going to be there, I'm going to walk with you in every step, you mean it in that moment. When you make that commitment, you mean it. But when the days, the weeks, the months, the years pass, you start entertaining the little thoughts of maybe you'll be better at peace when you're gone, and you feel guilty. You feel like shit. That is the thought in your head because this is somebody you love. You feel like shit. And movies like this, they never look at that. They never consider that. And then there's the fact that the film basically ends with what they want us to interpret as a moment of triumph for Anna, where she gets to have all these experiences and gives up the boring job at Goldman Sachs to continue her study at Oxford instead, and we are meant to cheer her on for that. And yet I found myself angry, infuriated instead, because whilst I do agree that Goldman Sachs was never going to be it for Anna, Anna is someone who is clearly a dreamer. She loves art and beauty and poetry and literature, and spending the rest of her life as a financial analyst because that is what is expected of her and is a sensible thing to do when she doesn't want to do the sensible thing and wants to pursue her dreams instead, would have been such a drain to her spirit. So yes, I am happy that she let go of that job to follow her dream. My problem, however, is that the film had me questioning at the end of it, was that truly her dream? Because Jamie is the one who told her to take a grand tour and told her of the places that he thought she should go. And I don't know if anyone else noticed, but I did clock it that every single place she went to after he passed were the ones he mentioned. And before you say that, but Noria, I don't see a big deal in that. I mean, he wanted her to see the sights and beauty of Europe, and clearly Anna agreed. I would just like to point out that there is more to Europe than the places that Jamie mentioned. And yet, the only places that Anna visited were the ones he had brought up as he was dying. She went to the Temple of Poseidon but didn't stop by at the Parthenon. She didn't visit any castles in Portugal. Didn't go tossing a coin in the Trevi Fountain. Like, yeah, she's grieving, so she doesn't need to toss in the second or third coin, but one is enough. She didn't go to see Michelangelo's Pieta. She didn't do any of the things outside of what he had dreamed of her going to see and being with her to see it. And it read to me as all of these experiences that Anna was having after his passing was a way to honor his memory. Yeah, but it wasn't about her following her own dreams, because we never really did get to know what those dreams were throughout the course of the film. She didn't exist outside of Jamie and reading and quoting poetry like a walking collection of poems, and that does not a personality lend to. That is what I found dangerous. And having the film end with her basically taking on Jamie's job, complete with the cake first introduction. I mean, come on, it looks like she took in parts of himself and made those who she eventually grew into becoming. And I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way, for sure. But maybe that is just me. Maybe you think I am reading way too much into this and there was zero danger within the story and how it was presented. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. Trust me, I am perfectly fine with you pointing out where I am wrong or might have missed the mark. Like this video if you've watched this far and haven't done so yet. Share this if you want. Support me on Patreon if you can. If you can't, however, do consider checking out my other channels linked in the description bar. One of them is my gaming channel and the other is my ASMR channel, where I will be posting ASMR content on folktales and myths if that is more your thing. Whichever the case may be, I will see you with a new video on Monday. Until then, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.